Okie doke. So I think we might as well get started. Um, you'll be happy to know that I edited down to about 4 hours. Don't worry, there'll be bathroom breaks and some will be about 20, 25 minutes. Oh, that reminds me, I wanted to get my timer out here.
Yeah.
A couple other announcements. Betsy wonderfully loaned us the laptop to do this, but she has to leave absolutely by 8 o'clock. So we are definitely going to be done by then. Sorry, I gotta find my timer here. Also, if anybody who hasn't seen the show, and if you're interested, I can walk around with my iPad and show you the tour. So let me know, and we'll do that at the end. Also, if you have any questions, type them in the comment box, and we'll get to yours online first. Because what may happen is Betsy will take the computer away, and that'll be the end of that. But really, before I get into it, I just want to take a moment to thank a great friend and a mentor and a cheerleader and a person without we probably wouldn't be here, Peg Johnston, and miss her terribly. She was such a cheerleader as I worked on this project because every time I came up with a new design or new technique, she was the one I would show it to, and she was so gracious with her time and it really helped me actually shapes a lot of this show. So I got my water. I just have to make myself I have notes here, and we'll just go right into it. So one of the big questions I got was, how did I get here? And if you remember, I'm changing slides now, but it won't change slides. We'll have to do it the old-fashioned way. If you remember my Flower Wars show, or if you hadn't, somebody's drilling now. I used an overhead projector to put objects and light the background, and then I independently lit the flowers. And I tried different things on the background. And one of the things I tried was to put glue on cellophane, clear glue on cellophane to create some more textures there. And this was my setup here. And I was playing with other things with the glue, and I was projecting the glue with the overhead projector through on a mirror and taping flowers on the mirror. So I got this idea of encapsulating something within these bubbles, and that led to making more cells, more glue things with different molds. I tried some muffin pans from Goodwill, some other like kind of Dixie cups, anything that would hold a mold. It's hard to tell, but there's a little color swatch on the back wall, and that's for my food coloring chart. So I know what color green I wanted to use, what color blue, and two more people want to come in. So let me do that. Mary, hi Mary. Oops. Great, great. Hi Mary. Hi Martise. And so I just went crazy on just making these glue pieces using silicone molds or pie pans. All my glues were mixed in these kind of ketchup bottles. Put a couple drops in. The ones up front you see, those are with the UV, and to get the UV to work, I would just put a couple drops of acrylic UV in with the clear glue and mix that up. And then on the far right, you can see my little spritzers with alcohol ink, and I'll get into that later how why I needed that. But I got those pie pans, and I was able to experiment with the glue, how long it took to dry, how long it took to cure. If you went to the Love show here, these guys were from my Love Bugs. I call them glue bots now. But basically, I squirt the glue on the shiny side of this paper, and then after it dries, I can peel it off and place it anywhere I want. And I show this slide because the top figures are all kind of crinkly, is because they were dry, but it wasn't cured. And I learned a lot about that. Like it took about 4 days to dry, but about 2 3 weeks to cure. And if you wanted to keep that shape, crinkly is fine too, but I wanted to do something a little more solid. And so these are the other glue bots. This is my glue bot factory. So on a big sheet, I would do a different color and different 5-point people. And then with the knife, I was able to kind of pry them off the temporary plastic and then place them on the display frame that I have there. And along the way, I discovered a lot of different things. Oh, this is going to act up on me. Okay. Um, this shows how it was difficult. Well, I learned that you can't add wet glue to dry glue without them kind of like morphing into each other. So the bottom left is just the one color, and I add the green that was wet, and it starts eating away at the color that was there. So then I decided to go big. So these are, I don't know, 24 by 30 or so. And I'll show later how I have them hung up, but I have such a small studio that I use the space to, get as many pieces in as possible. Because like I said, it's 4 days to dry, probably 3 weeks for the store. So I gotta store them somewhere. And then after, let's say, a week or 10 days, most of it's dry, but there's still like the thicker parts haven't congealed yet. I call on my friend Gravity to help me. When I tilt the piece, it starts dripping down. And here I am working on a few pieces at the same time. And this is the whole studio. I hope you can see that, but it's 12 by 15 roughly. And it's hard to see because I can't go full screen because we're having technical errors, but there's pipes on the ceiling that have power hooks on them and string, and so they're hooked from side to side, and I can slide the whole string forward and backwards on the pipes. And then on the bottom right, there's a shelf with sandbags so that I can pull the string up and down and raise it up and down however I want. And then it also acts as a storage place for all those pieces. And it's good to have that because when you put together a big show, especially a solo show, you want to see all the work to see how you can assemble it. So when you go home or go to your studio, if you think your studio is too small, look up and see how much space you have there, and maybe invest in a two-step ladder so that you can get up there and use that space. Also wanted to point out I made all the frames myself, and I don't use any power tools. On the right, that yellow thing is a miter saw block. It holds the wood in place and holds the saw at the 45-degree angle you'd like. But the real hero is the left, where there's a 90-degree clamp. So now you can clamp these two mitered pieces together. A little glue and a staple, and you're good to go. And then it came down to the assembly. So now this project was about 18 months. The first 9 months to a year, I was just trying to figure out what was going to work and what wasn't going to work. And I was just making all of these little pieces, knowing that the last 6 months is when I was going to assemble them all and kind of make some sense out of it. But I've bought 100-pack roll of 18 by 24 oak tag, and I've got stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks of all these experiments that I was working on. And the reason for the lantern was just to kind of show off most of those experiments. Now, to do the composition of the piece is difficult because I don't want to permanently glue it yet, but then if I just hold it up, it's going to fall. So everything I did was from the ceiling perspective, and I'd get up on my little ladder and, oh, I got to move it to the right a little bit. I would come back down and lay on the floor and look at it and go, no, that's not right. But meanwhile, I was having fun. I was listening to music and probably drinking a beer or two. Once I settled on a design. Oh, and also in the way back, you can see one of these larger stained sheets with the red on it. That's the sprayed alcohol ink, and I'm going to get into that a little bit later. But once you decide how you want the pieces to live, then you got to glue them down permanently. Process for that, and then when you're done, you get something like this. Knowing that I wanted to backlight it, I was like, oh yeah, this is great. This is really good. But, and this is going to help me here, I said, what if I made a cube and dropped the light in the center? And now instead of it just being like that, the two-dimensional, it's hanging on the wall backlit, now it can be its own 3D object that you can walk around. This is the studio as it is, just testing what was going to work, how I was going to frame it, how I was going to present it. A little note on the size of these, because I always ask people about aspect ratio, like, why did you make that 16 by 20? Why is that like that? So these are, the lanterns are 17 by 17. 17 plus 17 is 34. My plastic paper is only 36 wide. So I wanted to maximize the paper and utilize it as most efficiently as possible. So that's the reason for that size. The other ones, the bigger ones, I don't know really. I experimented with a lot of different aspect ratios, and I just happened on the one that's here at the gallery. I think it's I want to say 30 by 35. There was one more component that was missing from this. I'm just going to go back to this slide real quick. You put these colorful glue things on this white translucent material, and it doesn't give me that electron microscope look I was looking for. So I was struggling with, how am I going to do that? How am I going to make my pieces get that grime, that little extra, dirt around there? And I came up with these cellophane sheets that I would crinkle up so that they had a lot of nice wrinkles in them. I would mask out the areas I didn't want sprayed, and then I would spritz the alcohol spray over the cellophane, and then glue the cellophane to the artwork that's underneath it. And when I found this out, I thought, this is it. I called Peg up and I said, Peg, I figured it out. I was so excited, because other than that, it was going to take a lot more, I'd say, like, I don't know, compositional energy to make those images pop, But now that I had the second layer with the cellophane, that I can create a resist on whatever I wanted to. I was sailing high on, and knowing also I was going to use the ever-changing colored bulb. So I've got sheets and sheets of cellophane with all different colors on it. Which one's going to work best with which color light? Please help me. Oh no, what'd you do? Okay, and we saw this in my glue bot factory, but I brought this up to talk about composition, and I'm so glad I'm doing this talk, and I recommend all the other artists to make a talk about your show. You don't have to do the talk, but make a talk, because I wanted to talk about color, light, and composition. I was like, what are you going to say? I don't know. And I went through my stuff and I said, you know what? It looks like I tend to do equal spacing composition. So when I put those glue bot pieces down, it was like in a certain way that I wanted, and I'm calling it that. It was an equal space composition. The same thing with this top right one with the 7 strands, this kind of this equal space composition. And I didn't know I was doing that until I started picking the work apart. So after the glue bots, then it comes on. So then it's got the cellophane sheet. I've also drew on the clear parts of the cellophane with the black dry erase marker, and then rubbed off as much as I could. So it kind of contaminated the space a little bit, so it wasn't so clean. Here's another mask I made for that piece. I used the straws as a negative space. You can see on the top left here. And I don't know if you remember my utensil show, but it was a lesson in very simple photography, and I played with the idea of if you have one object, it's easy to compose in a square. And so if you remember all my utensils, it was just one object right in the middle. Now you get 2, what do you do? When you get 7, what do you do? So this bottom right one is another example of this equal spacing aesthetic that I have. Now these are the big pieces. So those are all the lanterns. We're only going to be like another 5 minutes, don't worry. This is the same artwork photographed with different lighting. So on the right, it's a very flat, straight light. Everything gets illuminated, no shadows. The left one, same artwork, except the light now is like severe angle shining down, like what you would see at sunset when the sun is skimming across the ground, creating long shadows. And so that's what I wanted to play with when I started these pieces here. So the progression went from, oh, I'm playing with glue, this is cool, and then they went to like, oh, I want to make them look like it would look like under a microscope, like parameciums and amoebas. And then of course, being post-COVID, I was like, oh, well, let's just call it a virus. And I said, well, humans are kind of a virus too, aren't they? And I was, yes, they are. So how do you illustrate that? And so I started with my list of things, and I'm not going to read them all out, but this was in March. I only had the two done, the acid attacks and the school shootings, but these were the other topics I wanted to try and hit. Guns and gangs. And I tried the tobacco one because my neighbor smoked and he flicked all his cigarette butts on the shared driveway. And so I was picking those up and collecting them and trying to put them on a big sheet and looking at them, but it just didn't, it's hard. I didn't want, if you look at the work, I try not to be so obvious about things, and it smelt anyhow. So these are more topics I should probably get into. This one was an experiment in a dual colored mold. Oh, Rich Brown is trying to get in. I gotta see if I can get Rich here. How you doing, Rich? So this one was the only duo colored pieces that I made, and then now here we go again. How am I going to compose that? And this one has a different aspect ratio because I think the shapes had dictated it. Again, I think I'm looking at that, that equal spacing aesthetic. And then there it is when it's lit up. This particular one, I used an extra green light on the bottom as it looked a little dark. This slide shows my DNA factory, so I could squeeze and make wiggle marks on the plexiglass. And then when that dried and cured, I can pull it off and, in this case, maybe make hair. Another challenge was, like I said earlier, trying to mix two different colors glue, and they both had to be absolutely dry. But I wanted to take a couple of my glue bots and encase them in plastic. And that led to this piece here. And here's just another example of it. And so I think I got the face thing down because that's not hard to do. Two eyes, a couple nostrils and a mouth. And I said, look, dude, don't make them all look like faces. You got to do something else with it. So I said, okay, well, let me make a house. I was like, how do you make a house? Well, you got to make a resist when you pour the glue so that the glue has some place for it, not to collect. So I put some game pieces in cellophane and weighed them down on the surface before I poured the glue. Those medicine things have coins in them. The batteries are heavy. This is a big thing of sand. That can is full of coins. So they just kind of weighted in place. And then I poured about, I don't know, 16, 20 ounces of black glue in there. Let it wait. It's such an interesting process because the top part that's thinner, that may be dried in 3 days. The middle part, that took like 6 weeks because it's got, almost a quarter inch of glue. But now if we go back, please help me. We can see now, oh yeah, so they kind of made the resist. Now, what about that kind of chimney looking thing? Well, when that was all dried, I just, tapped into my friend gravity and hold the thing upside down and let all of that glue kind of drip down. And for those who haven't seen this live, it's a 30 by 35, so it's pretty big. And this one also, I use that alcohol ink on the cellophane as a second layer. Put some doodads in this guy. Here's this one touches on both color and composition. If you look at it, I've only got it like a couple blues I like, the one red, but maybe diluting it, a couple oranges and a yellow. That's really all it is. And this one still has some equal spacing, but I feel like it's an advance compared to the other ones. This piece again, equal spacing, and I don't know about the composition on this. I sometimes play with ugly things so that it's deliberately ugly. Don't do this to me now. We're almost done. These are all my leftover DNA samples that I kind of stuck on there. And that was the show. But before I leave, I wanted to leave you with a little inspiration here. I got to look at my notes. Original art starts with original thoughts. And I'm going to stop sharing this screen so I can just see everybody going here. So original art requires original thought. Well, what does that mean? Well, so I think it's important to be original. Otherwise, everybody's putting out the same kind of work, right? So I was thinking, how do you get to original thought? And what I do is I try to be absurd. I try to practice absurdity to open up that part of your brain that allows new ideas to come through. Because when I was playing with the glue, there was that voice in my head saying, "What are you doing? This is stupid." You know, and I was like, "No, I'm going to work through this." And so to get original thought, this is one technique: be absurd, shake up your life, right? Take a new route to your destinations. Get uncomfortable. Sleep on the floor next to your bed. Wear a coat when you don't have to. Make up nonsense poems while you're waiting in line, washing dishes, doing all that stuff. Because language creates imagery. And if I'm just going to give you a bit of a poem that I worked on while I was a dishwasher. Half of the giraffe's glass carafe cracked in the bath. The other half cracked in the back of the bath where the calf laughed. Now, you might ask about the laughing calf of the giraffe, but the fact that half of the giraffe's glass carafe cracked in the bath makes me ask, where's the giraffe? What? Right? You get some imagery? So play with words. Words will open up that part of your brain that says it's okay when the other guy says, no, I don't know, you're being stupid, you're being foolish. Make goofy sounds with your mouth. And what's nice about that, everybody's going to make a different goofy sound, and that's how you get your originality, because it's you making those things. Burn incense. The whole thing is change the sensory perceptions that your brain normally is used to and open up that door for nonsense. Thank you. Yeah. For those who arrived late, Betsy needs to leave. Oh, okay. But we're going to take some questions, and then I have my iPad. I can walk around and show you guys the art, especially for my friend in Australia who it's going to be a hard time for him to get here. So the glue, they're asking me how I got in with the glue, and this piece here with the clothespin was where it all started from. Again, absurd nonsense. I had a cracked piece of glass. And I was already working with the projector. I was playing with the things, and I already had the clothespins because in that series, they're kind of the soldiers. And I said, I'm going to glue this clothespin to the glass. Don't know why. I tried the clear glue, I tried the white glue, and the clear glue stuck. And I was like, oh my. But this other one on the left, that's just like another playful thing I was working on. Just things I wouldn't show in public, but you know, for this purpose, let's see it.
Joe's got a question or a comment or something.
Okay, I'm trying to see where do I get back. Oh, I just kind of here hide the PowerPoint. Yeah, Joe, what's your question?
It wasn't really a question. You were talking about climbing up on a ladder and adjusting things and then going down on the floor.
Right.
What? Just put a mirror on the floor.
It's not that same thing because
Same.
the mirror had to be at a certain angle, right? Because if you put a mirror on the floor, now your angle is not where you want it to be, and so there's a distortion. I like to look at it straight up, you know, especially when I'm trying to compose.
But I just thought it'd save your legs, you know, going up and down the.
Yeah, it was only a two-step ladder. Yeah. Then maybe I'll try and fire up this laptop and walk around a bit. Hopefully this will work. Betsy's asking me if I know where I'm going next with it. I have no idea. I may be done with this. I've got a lot, you know, there's a lot of stuff that I didn't finish with the Flower Wars. So that needs to be looked at. There's a whole lot of experimenting with this. I think what I want to do next is something a little bit more to do with light. But, you know, I may from time to time, meeting passcode is incorrect. Oh, man, this technology is just killing me today. Yeah, I wanted to play with light. I have this theme of, I don't know if I'll be able to pull it off, but it's called One Light. And it's just one light in the gallery that goes through prisms and mirrors and bounces around things. And that one light shows all of the ways that light can be used. So, I'm sorry, what happened? Oh, that's me. Thank you. That's on here. Please hear others. Please join audio. I don't know. Yeah, Wi-Fi.
Recording in progress.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, no. Where are we going? How do I flip my camera around? Don't switch cameras. You can do it. Thank you. You're looking at the. I wanted to show the artwork here. You can't see the artwork, can you? Oh, you can. I can't see it. That's odd. Okay, so as you come into the gallery, I'll start from back here. Oh, maybe this will work. No. Okay, so this is the entrance of the piece. I've draped it, the sheets up there. I wanted to create more of a portal to come in. It's really hard to see the artwork, but this was that one piece. Oh, here we go, coming around. This is that piece, and then you go around this side, and we have a couple more pieces. And all of these I just showed in the PowerPoint. And then when you get to the back, that's where all the lanterns are.
Could you read the titles?
Oh yeah, I can read the titles. These are the lanterns. This is that piece with the house, which is called Domestic Violence, one of those happy virus things that we cause. This one over here is Toxic Friends.
Oops. Go slower. You're going too fast.
Oh, I didn't know if you could really see the imagery. I showed all of these in the PowerPoint. Who's that? This one, the school shootings. Yeah.
You can't see anything.
You can't see anything?
Well, you're going so fast that it's just sort of skimming around. If you
Yeah,
stop
that was intentional. That was intentional because we saw all the work already, no? I was just kind of showing where it is in space. But I'll slow down.
Can you explain that one so we can see how it is?
So this one, the shadows change on it depending on where it is on the light. And then the other thing I would show, if I go back to this one here, is how the texture changes depending on where it is in the light. So here you don't see any texture in the face, but as it moves back, you can see all the little texture in there. I'll do a quick tour of the lanterns too, because those change color. Those bulbs are changing color, and I'll even just give this a little spin. This piece.
What do you use for the light inside?
This has just a LED bulb. Is that rendered? It's an LED bulb that's set to ever change its color. And then in the gallery also, I left out some samples that people could touch and feel and play with just to see what was going on. Get a better sense of the art piece. This one, back to this guy, this is conspiracy theorists. This one is a virus that's undeveloped, so I kind of left a little room. As I mentioned earlier, I really didn't want to get too heavy-handed with the titles on there. This one is gridlock. And then the opening one, yeah, I don't think I can get there. Any other questions? Turn this one.
How longer to dry, or is glue, or does it depend on the thickness?
I'm sorry, I was playing with my technology. What's that now?
Alcohol longer to dry, or does the thickness of the glue take longer?
It was the thickness of the glue. The alcohol ink, if you've never used it before, it gets a little sticky and dries in like 5 minutes. And I saw, if you saw my spritzer bottles, you have to have another one as full alcohol and clean the squirter out after every use, or you're just gonna have a nightmare trying to use it. And I actually, what I do is I take a new spritzer, make sure there's pure alcohol in it before I put it in my alcohol inks, just to keep it flowing. But then I do a couple test sprays on a paper towel before I actually use it on the artwork.
Would you show me the famous one you just did?
Sure. So I made a piece for Betsy. Hold on.
For years.
Yeah, Betsy told me I was famous, so I said, well, I made this one that says, now you're famous too. It really kind of reflects the work that she did during the COVID, which I enjoy. I still have to glue it on there, but it's just
Yeah.
Great. Any other questions?
Steph?
Yeah.
One of the things you haven't really talked about is your presentation of the whole installation. I mean, you've made an atmospheric. You've changed the whole nature of the gallery by just putting the drapes up and making it a mysterious passage. Did you have other thoughts of things you could do, or is there a special?
Hold on a second. Now to bring that up.
Ah,
It helped me kind of visualize where I was going to put the pieces and things like that. And the maze part was, I have the opening is over here. Let's see if we can see this. The opening is over here, and you walk around this way, and this is all one big partition that goes in. So it's basically making an I-beam with 2 extra side walls, so the flow just kind of snakes around. But if you have, what did I have? 18 months to do the show. And if you get on it right away and don't wait till the 17th month, you can start adding layers and layers. So I finished that in April. I already knew how I was going to hang it. I ordered my material in the spring. The black fabric is black cloth you put over your weed in your garden to prevent weeds from growing. And I was fortunate that Home Depot, when it was springtime, they had it in stock. What else can I tell about it? So every piece had to be lit individually because everything's hanging from the ceiling in the gallery. And that lighting, I was very particular how close the light was to the painting. This far away, you get a different kind of effect. So I'm up and down, and that's not a 2-step ladder. That's like a 6-step ladder. So
Are you selling it individually?
I didn't think anyone would want to buy them, but we can talk. That's right, you got yours. Anything else I could add? Yeah, changing the space was important. A lot of the art I've done in the past too involves, the audience has to do something other than just sit there or stand there and watch. So that's always important to me.
I think it's really important for people to rethink the gallery space.
Judy is saying she thinks it's really important for people to rethink the gallery space, and I agree. the wood that's holding up the sheets I found on the street because I'm a guy who drives around and looks for wood. And the material, it was like $60 for 100-foot roll, and I only used like a third of it. So yeah, I try and stay low cost with all that. And I just to show that you can do these things low cost, you know.
Most air pollution comes from combustibles that consist of organic remains. Right, unk in the trunk. This term for a dilapidated old auto like my 52 Chrysler refers to the sound that
You saying it was a lot easier to create something that's more solid, like a solid wall. The other reason for the sheeting, I knew those back lantern bulbs were only so bright. And if we're open 11 to 3 on a Saturday, you're not going to see that effect unless I can block the light out. And so part of this strategy was to keep the light contained within the one piece on there.
To be a little bit more theatrical.
Danette is saying it tends to be more theatrical.
With the lighting, the curtain, you're drawing a lot of attention to the actual piece.
She feels that I'm drawing a lot of attention to the individual pieces by doing it that way.
The audience, look.
Yeah, and I wanted to create that mystery, like you got to peek around the corner and say, "Oh, what's next? Oh, wow, what is that?" You know.
With the black too, I mean, nothing else, no other color would have done this.
White could have worked, but white had to be completely opaque, where you can see I can get away with there's a little spill of the light here, you know.
Well, I think it's virus, I mean.
We've got a show downtown. They're what are they doing? They're open tomorrow. Friday, yeah, they're open tomorrow, same hours as us, and Saturday. So if you're in Binghamton, you want to check out that show.
It's still it's a time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a very good show.
Yeah. Oh, and so this show will be up until the 28th. We're only open Friday 5 to 8, Saturday 11 to 3. I'm going to be here most of those days. If you want a personal tour, I'll be happy to show you the tour. I guess that's going to be it. Thank you all for tuning in, and I hope to see you all in person soon. Have a good night.
you.
Thank you.